Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first ever episode of the Inside the Lamp podcast. So let's kick this off by telling you a little bit about what Inside the Lamp is going to be about. So this is being produced by us here at RouteGenie. My name is Jonathan Anthon, co-CEO here at RouteGenie. But this isn't going to just be about RouteGenie. We'll be talking about product updates and some of the really cool things we've been working on and what we're doing, but also providing you a bunch of really valuable industry content. We're going to have all sorts of guests, folks that work with brokers, some successful NEMT providers themselves, some industry experts, other vendors, and even some regulators through the industry to tell you about how you can be successful within your NEMT business. So if you'd like to catch more content from us, please make sure, go ahead and like this video. Make sure you like and subscribe to our page so you don't miss any of these releases. We'll be doing these every couple weeks, so you get a lot of really good industry content coming your way from us every 2 weeks on the Inside the Lamp podcast.
Inside the lamp where wishes come true. RouteGenie's here to show you what you need to do. NEMT insights, we got the key. Unlock the journey with RouteGenie.
Welcome to Inside the Lamp, your go-to podcast for everything NEMT and RouteGenie software. Let's get moving.
For our first episode today, we're going to be doing a review of what we accomplished in 2024, some of the really cool things we did, both with our product and as a company, and giving you a little bit of a preview of what we're going to be up to come 2025. So let's go ahead and get started and dive in here. Let's talk about some of the updates we made to our API integrations and some of our integration partners with brokers here, and some of the changes we've made, starting with MotiveCare. So within MotiveCare, we've made a lot of changes to the API. They made some adjustments this year, which allowed for different reasons for no-show and cancel to be sent with them via the API. So we released that immediately on time for them to be able to get that information from you to make the cancel no-show process a little bit smoother when you have rides that do unfortunately cancel or no-show with MotiveCare. We also created the billing import menu. If you're working with MotiveCare and you're not using this is a big thing you're going to want to touch on. We'll give you a little demo here. But within the billing import menu, you can take your remittance file from MotiveCare and actually upload it into RouteGenie to post the payments for your trips that you're getting from MotiveCare. So you'll be able to easily see which trips you've been paid for, which trips you've been partially paid for, and those that haven't been paid yet. So you know exactly what's owed to make sure that you're getting every penny that you're owed for all the work that you're doing. So that's very, very important if you're not using that. Again, we'll give you a quick demo, or you can reach out to our support team to get some help with that. We also created a threshold setting. It used to be that anytime MotiveCare sent an update to a trip, it would go ahead and unassign the trip from the vehicle because a change was made. It might be a different place, might be a different time. We put in some threshold settings, so if the change to the trip is minor, it will not unassign it from the vehicle and leave it on the route. We'll ignore that change essentially if it's a minor change and leave the trip as is. And you get to decide how many minutes the trip can change for you to ignore it. So that allowed you to not have to worry about MotiveCare sending you updates in the middle of the day and trips falling off of vehicles and falling off of their route. We made a couple of other small enhancements too. So things like adding the attested status, just so you can see whether or not you've sent a trip for a batch yet or not. We did some improvements to our webhook strategy to speed up billing and make things a little more efficient when it comes to billing. We also made some enhancements to improve signature transfers, where we're making sure that signatures are transferring more quickly and more often via the API with MotiveCare. So a lot of huge enhancements to the MotiveCare API, and watch our releases for the next few weaks. Early in the year, you're going to see some other really big stuff with the MotiveCare API. Now MTM, we made some enhancements with the MTM API as well. They also made an update to their API where they could actually ready will calls via the API. So if someone calls in, one of your passengers calls into MTM to let them know that they're ready for the will call, they can actually send that update and give you an update to say, hey, this person's ready with the time, instead of them having to call you directly. So that minimizes the number of calls coming in your office potentially. So that's a really big change. We also made some improvements to essentially prevent webhooks from going missing. There would be times where, because your vehicle wasn't necessarily arriving on scene where MTM wanted you to arrive or gave us in terms of the GPS coordinates, that you wouldn't get the webhook saying you've arrived. We made some enhancements to make sure that they're getting an arrival webhook no matter what. As long as you load that passenger, we would send them where you loaded the passenger, even if you didn't hit the spot that they thought you should be going to. Now, so some cool stuff with MTM. Moving on to MAS. Lots of big changes for those of you in New York this year. A lot of you probably had a lot of adjustments to make. And we were right along there with you, making some big adjustments to the API to make that work. Now that you're required to send GPS coordinates with every single trip in order to get that trip attested so you can get paid. So we made a lot of adjustments there. Things like putting in rules that forced you to have a driver or vehicle synced with the MAS portal, because if you didn't have the driver or vehicle synced, the GPS coordinates wouldn't go over. We put in a tool where you can send those GPS coordinates after the fact. So if something happened that they didn't get synced via the API with MAS for some reason, you could go back and resend them so they could get those coordinates so you could get paid. We made all those changes and then a whole bunch more regarding the new rules with MAS to make your life a lot easier. So hopefully you guys are feeling those changes and life's getting a little bit easier after that adjustment that they made with their API. Let's talk about Martin Gatra for the folks up in Massachusetts. So Martin Gatra, two brokers local to the New England area. We made a couple really big upgrades to that API. One was that we can import standing orders, which is a little bit unique. So instead of reporting one trip at a time on their portal, they can give you, hey, this person's going every Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the next 6 months. We'll import that as a standing order for you rather than one trip at a time, which gives you some really cool functionality with the standing order features. We also made a change to filter that you could do accepted or unaccepted trips coming in via your integration with Martin Gatra. That allows you to essentially see those trips in RouteGenie before you decide you want to accept or reject them, or if you prefer to accept or reject them first and then have them go to RouteGenie, you can have that workflow as well. So you have a couple options in terms of how you want to do that based on how you run your business. So lots of big changes to our integration partners. We also added a whole bunch of integration partners, which is really exciting. So most recently, we actually integrated with Momentum, formerly known as TripSpark, which allows us to work with CTS. They're used to be mostly New England area, but now they're kind of spreading throughout the country. So really awesome brokers. So check them out if you're not working with them. CTS. Call the Car out in California. We have that integration go live this year. Movi, which is a really cool product that works all over the country. Awesome integration partners there that we've added. Scadgo, and then Trapeze as well. Trapeze, for those of you that are doing microtransit or transit type work, you'll be doing a lot with Trapeze possibly. So we have that integration now available too. So lots of changes to our integration partners. And again, watch out for some good news in 2025, some really big changes happening, especially on the MotiveCare API, and some really big announcements coming in terms of a couple new integration partners that you'll be able to hear about pretty soon. And you should see integrations live for that many of you have been asking for. So we're really excited to tell you more about that later on in the year. Talk about one of the biggest features we added in 2024 to RouteGenie, and that's our ability to use RouteGenie as a broker. So the RouteGenie Broker Edition. We had been working with some brokers over the past couple of years developing this solution and working with them on their needs, but now we've got this ready where really it can work for most of the brokers that are out there, and it's pretty exciting stuff. So within RouteGenie, for those of you that maybe are thinking about stepping into becoming a broker, or for any brokers that might be watching that aren't happy with their technology solution, we've got some really cool tools that really help with modernizing the broker and provider interaction. So within RouteGenie, you have a concept of what are called driver groups. Many of you maybe seen that. Some of you might use it for other purposes. But driver groups are now equipped to essentially become your subcontractors. And those subcontractors can have users that are assigned to them. And those users can see only the trips and the vehicles and drivers that are assigned to that subcontractor. They can actually send drivers and vehicles for credentialing right to the broker. And it's a totally electronic process where the broker will receive it, approve it or deny it, send you notes back, etc. So we've really streamlined that credentialing process. When it comes to trip assignment, they can be assigned a multitude of different ways to the providers. We have all sorts of different algorithms and automations that will help trips get assigned to the right provider based on whether if the passenger is assigned to the provider. We also have some tools now where we're looking at the provider's area of operation and hours of operation, what modes of transport they support, what kind of volume they can support. All those tools now are within RouteGenie, so that if you are subcontracting trips, or if you're a broker that's what you do is subcontract trips, you've got a really cool tool to help you interact with your providers in more efficient ways than you ever have before. On top of the normal, obviously, you have the broker portals where providers can go in and get their trips and upload trip information if you want to be able to do uploads for billing. We can also even have your subcontractors work directly within RouteGenie to not only utilize the app to capture live GPS information, signatures, whatever information you might need, but they can actually even take advantage of all of RouteGenie's routing and dispatching features with only their trips within the system. So they can log in, look at all the trips that they've received from you. They can route those trips, dispatch those trips. Their drivers can use the driver app just like any other RouteGenie user, and they can really take advantage of some of the efficiency tools that RouteGenie provides. So we're really excited to continue to work on this. There's all sorts of other different cool broker features that aren't as exciting, things like eligibility updating and authorizations. A lot of other things that are very important behind the scenes for a broker that you might not see on the front line as a transportation provider. So you'll start seeing a lot more marketing around the RouteGenie broker solution from us as we head into 2025. It's something that we've kind of kept a little bit quiet as we've been working through. We really want to make sure we got it right. But we really think we have a best-in-class, cutting-edge solution here for anybody who's subcontracting trips or for any brokers that might be looking to upgrade their technology. So watch for an update on the website in 2025 with a new broker section, and make sure you check that out to learn more about how RouteGenie Broker can make your business a whole bunch better. All right, let's dive into some of the new features for 2024 that will really impact your day-to-day operations, things on the dispatch screen, reservations, pre-assign, passenger profiles, driver shifts, things of that nature. Some really big enhancements this year that are really going to affect how you're using them day to day. And we're going to do some demonstrations of these and show you exactly how these things work as I talk about them. So the first one, being able to add new orders and edit them from the passenger profile. This is one we know that folks have wanted for a while, so we got that out this year, where instead of going to a passenger profile to find somebody and get information about them and then having to go separately to an add order screen, right now you have the add order button right on the passenger profile. So you can go ahead and add that order right from there. And when you're viewing their orders, you'll be able to edit orders directly from that passenger profile too. So from a workflow perspective, instead of having to go to a trip screen and find a person, you can actually now go to the passenger profile, find that person, and then find the trips associated with that person right from that passenger profile. So it opens up some doors for a little bit different workflows for you. Second really big one for folks, just in case you have situations where things go down, or if you want to have a backup, or some people just like paper still for whatever reason, you can create a printable route sheet from the pre-assign. So from your pre-assign screen, you can open up a PDF that prints out essentially a route manifest for each driver that you can hand to them so they have that paper backup in addition to the driver app. Should there be a mobile outage, they drop their phone, whatever it might be. A nice little backup, and you don't have to create a report. I know a lot of folks who create reports and send them out and things like that. This allows you to just quickly, one click, get everything printed, hand to the drivers, and be on with your day. We also created a no-show status for driver shifts. So the way this works is if a driver doesn't come to work one day for whatever reason, we can mark that shift as a no-show status. So that way you're able to generate reporting, see which drivers are not coming in, or either no call, no showing, or same day canceling on you for their shifts, so that you can better manage your driver fleet and have better expectations as to who's coming to work when they're supposed to be and who isn't. So that's a big feature for managing your fleet, and going to help your fleet managers out quite a bit with managing the drivers and having real data to back that up versus just kind of guessing and going based on your feeling. Editing and creating passenger profiles right from the add order screen. So you always used to be able to kind of create a new passenger profile, but it was very limited what information you could put there. And again, same thing with editing. You could edit it, but there was very limited information you were allowed to edit. You are now able to both create a full passenger profile and edit a full passenger profile with all of the different data points right from that screen. So you don't ever have to leave the add order screen. If you have someone new coming in, or if you need to make changes to a passenger, if you prefer that the other workflow that from what we talked about before, where you're working from the order side, you can still make edits to the passenger from that add order screen. In addition to that, on the add order screen, we also have recent trip history now. So we can see everything that passenger's done. Another reason, again, if you want to work from that add order screen, instead of having to go to the passenger's profile, look at other trips they've scheduled, now you can do that all right from the add order screen. See what trips they've taken in the past. So if they say, hey, I'm going to that doctor on Main Street again, instead of having to try to figure that out, you can look right there, see, oh, it's 123 Main Street, and be able to quickly and easily create that trip for them. Some new filters being added to the reservation, dispatch, etc. screens. Driver groups. So if you are using either subcontractors or driver groups within your organization, you can filter that down and see the trips that are assigned just to those driver groups. Trip purpose. A lot of you use that to track your dialysis trips, etc., maybe methadone trips. If you're using purposes, you can filter the dispatch and reservation screens based on trip purposes. Time. This is a big one. If you want to look at just a period of the day, you're now able to create a date range and see just the trips during that period of the day for an individual day on the dispatch screen or the today's order screen. Or if you go into reservations and you want to see, hey, how booked out are my days from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m.? I feel like the drivers aren't that busy for that time. You can actually go and look at a 1 month period and look at only the trips between 2 and 5 p.m. for that period to kind of get a feel for how booked you are or were in the past. And the last one, mileage. This is a really useful one too. Mileage, obviously, some folks like to work differently with their long distance trips, plan around those trips. You might want to look at your very short trips to make sure you can get them grouped together. So you could filter on pre-assign. If you're doing an auto pre-assign, you can do only the long distance trips first, for example. Or on dispatch, if you want to make sure all of your long distance trips are taken care of before you start dispatching other trips, you can filter to show you trips only over a certain mileage, under a certain mileage, or within a certain mileage range. So that way you're looking at just the trips you want to work with, whether again it be from a dispatch perspective, a pre-assigned perspective. You can be strategic around which trips you're distributing to your vehicles first. Let's talk about the dispatch screen. Some big changes on the dispatch screen in addition to some things we kind of mentioned here. Lightning assign. So this is fairly new. So if you missed this announcement, this is something you're going to want to check out. Right now, this is only available on dispatch. It is coming to pre-assign very soon. So watch your release notes for when it comes out on pre-assign as well. But the way Lightning Assign works is you have the check boxes where you can check multiple trips. A lot of folks for a long time have wanted to be able to assign those in bulk to a vehicle. The challenge there is obviously we have to think and build the route in the right order based on the time windows for each trip. So in the past, we haven't done that because it would tie down the system for a little bit. What we did is we created this ability where in the background, that little mini route's going to get created. So if I'm assigning 4 trips to vehicle 1, I click the 4 trips, I'll click on Lightning Assign, and then that will in the background then start to generate a mini route based on the times of the trips. It'll put them in the right order on the route based on the time windows and assign those to that vehicle. Now that vehicle does get locked while that thinking is happening. Depends on the number of trips. If you're doing only 2 or 3, it's very quick. If you're doing 20 of them, it might be a little bit longer for it to figure out the best way to do that and get everything within their time window. So you won't be able to give any other trips to that vehicle. You can't give another trip outside of the ones you've selected to that vehicle until that route has been created. But a really cool way, if you know you're giving a certain set of trips to a vehicle because they're in a certain area, maybe you filter the screen down by zone or to an address even, to be able to give trips to one vehicle. You can just multi-select, choose your vehicle, and off you go if you like to do the manual assignments. Showing orders on the map is another really big new feature on the dispatch screen. Essentially, again, you're using the same checkbox. We're checking those trips, and you can actually have those trips all appear with the pickup and drop-off addresses on the map that displays on the dispatch screen where all the vehicles are. So you can get a visual of maybe how close together trips are in a certain time range. So if you're trying to figure out, hey, can I give these 2 trips to the same vehicle? Some folks like to visually look at it on the map and see what that looks like. So by being able to select them and show them on the map, you can see where everything is, start to make some decisions, and decide how you might want to dispatch those rides. Last one for dispatch screen, zone and traffic overlay. So these are 2 new overlays. Again, we're talking about the map on the dispatch screen. When you turn on traffic, that will actually give you a live view to Google's traffic. Like on the Google Maps app, it'll turn green, orange, red based on traffic. Same thing, but that's going to display on your map in RouteGenie. So you can see where some of the worst traffic areas are. So that can help you identify if you might want to have vehicles avoid a certain area. You might want to do that. Or if you have somebody running late, you can communicate with a customer that, hey, it looks like there's some traffic. That's why that vehicle is running a little behind. They'll be there shortly based on your estimate. You do the same thing with zones. So if you're trying to figure out what zone a trip appears in, with the zone overlay, all the zones appear on the map with their names. So you can see which zone a vehicle might be currently in, which zone a trip is in if you turn on both overlays, et cetera, et cetera. So some really helpful tools for those of you that are kind of working out that dispatch screen, doing your game day dispatching and preparations. Those 2 tools will really help with the 2 overlays. Let's talk about some performance boosts. Obviously, as you add more and more stuff, the system has more and more things going on. We have to also make sure that it's performing effectively. So we spent a lot of the back half of last year doing some performance upgrades, and we did a few more this year. to make sure that the system stays strong, stays reliable as we keep adding more and more new features. And that's something we're going to continue to do throughout 2025. We have some more really cool things planned to make sure that the system is strong, stable, and quick. But this year, we did one thing with the dispatch screen that some of you might notice. If you scroll really fast, if you have a lot of trips on your dispatch screen, the trips will be the grid will be blank for a second, where you scroll and it's blank, and then all of a sudden the information fills in. What we did there is we actually changed the way that the dispatch screen loads trips. It used to load everything that essentially qualified to be on the dispatch screen based on your settings. And if you have a lot of trips, that can be a lot, but you can't view 2,000 trips at once, obviously. You can only view what's on the screen. So we set it up so the system only loads what's on the screen and a little bit more for scrolling. So if you scroll really fast, essentially that split second that you're seeing it blank is the system taking a second to say, okay, I got to load these trips now. And adding those on, but that makes the dispatch screen a heck of a lot faster and a heck of a lot more reliable and stable. So big time upgrade there. We also upgraded to a new version of our WebSockets. So WebSockets, I don't want to get too nerdy, but WebSockets are the tool that helps live communication. So anytime we're doing live ETAs, live status updates from the web app, those are all things that are happening on WebSockets. If we're getting things from the mobile app is one of the biggest things we're getting, right? Live location updates, status updates, things of that nature. Those are all managed by those WebSockets. We upgraded to a new version to help those be a little bit quicker and more stable. We did a couple more kind of smaller little things in the back end that you might not see that really help perform or help the system perform, I should say. Optimizing geocoding speed. We put some optimizations in that'll help the system identify addresses and geocode them with Google a little bit faster. So that helps with really all aspects of the system. Anytime you see an address, anytime an address is typed in, anytime you see something on a map, those things are all geocoded. So by optimizing that, we really help the performance of almost all the screens and speeding them up. And then last thing, reducing recalculation requests. So again, don't want to get too nerdy with this, but this is essentially reducing the number of times we're checking on something or checking back at something that doesn't need to be checked. Things like if checking ETAs, but if no parameters have changed, there's no reason to recalculate an ETA. So looking at some of those recalculations and reducing the number of requests that we're doing, by reducing the number of requests and eliminating things that we know don't need to be recalculated, fewer requests means better performance. So tons of stuff going into the software from a performance perspective, and that'll affect your day-to-day operations this year. And this is just a fraction of what we mentioned. So if you like some of the stuff you've heard here, again, make sure you like our page, hit the follow button, hit that bell so you're subscribing to our videos so you can see all the other cool new things that we're going to release later this year. Driver app, probably the most used thing within RouteGenie, right? Because all those drivers out there using it every single day, making that driver app as easy to use and as stable as possible is probably the most important thing we do here. So these enhancements are obviously critical to your day-to-day success and our success. So some really important stuff we're going to cover here today. So making sure that driver app is as user-friendly as possible is really important to us. And you're going to see some good enhancements for the driver app for 2025 as well. Let's talk about what we did in 2024. First thing, allowing the driver to change their assigned vehicle. So in the past, the driver could only log into the vehicle that they were assigned either via pre-assigned or a planned shift, which for the most part is fine. But in some situations, maybe a driver gets to a garage and you've got vehicles that can be blocked in and that vehicle is blocked in. Or there's a maintenance issue with the vehicle and the vehicle can't go on the road that day. If there's not someone available, within the dispatch system that can go and make a change to their vehicle, that becomes a major problem, obviously. So giving drivers permission to change their vehicle, if they have permission to do so, is a big enhancement that's on the driver's profile. So you can decide whether or not you want that. If your business is, none of my vehicles are blocked in, there's always someone there in the dispatch office that can make the change, you probably don't want that setting turned on. But if not, that could be a really useful setting to help manage some early morning problems, especially when the drivers get in and they're getting into their vehicles to start their day before someone might be in the office. Another big one is offline mode. So this is essentially allowing the system to collect and store information to transmit later. The way the system used to work was if you arrived at a location and you didn't have internet connection, or you did a status update or tried to capture a signature, none of those things would work. Arrivals would still work and we'd still capture that. But what would happen is we would report it once you reconnected to the internet, right? So you could have been there and driven 5 minutes before you reconnected, and then the time that was reported for your arrival time would be 5 minutes too late. It's not good, obviously. So what offline mode does is it allows us to collect information and store it with the timestamp and the geostamp where and when it happened. So instead of sending your location 5 minutes from now with a time 5 minutes from now, we'll store where you are now, and what time it is now, so that when you reconnect to the internet, those are the times that we send back for the arrival time or the loaded time or whatever it might be. We also have given the driver the ability to capture signatures and do things of that nature offline. So if there's issues with coverage in your area, if you're still in one of those areas it's out there or it's mountainous and you don't have the most reliable cell phone coverage, offline mode will help prevent any data issues that come from not having internet connection on the mobile device. Jumping to a couple driver, quality of life settings, we'll call them. Only showing the next stop. So this is a setting that allows you to essentially only show the driver the next place they're going. To keep it nice and simple, that way drivers don't get confused in their schedule. They don't move around things that they should be moving around. They're not looking ahead too far. Essentially, you can control it so the driver only sees the very next stop they're making. So, hey, go pick up John, or hey, go pick up John and the Genie if there's multiple people at that location, or go drop off Steve. Whatever the next move is for that driver, that's the only thing they'll see in the driver app instead of seeing their whole route. So if you want to keep it simple and just show them one step at a time, you can do that with the only show next stop setting. Another big one, the GPS location required setting. We just get a lot of problems with people not being able to see proper ETAs, not collecting GPS information because drivers just did not give the app GPS permissions. So now we've set it up that if the app does not have GPS permission, the driver essentially won't be able to move forward and do anything in the app outside of giving the app GPS permission. So we have to have at least open allow while the app is open, or you can have always allow. Now the challenge with allow only when the app is open is if it goes to the background, if they go to Google Maps, if they leave to go to a text message, if they take a phone call, anytime that app is not right in front of them, you're going to run into situations where you're losing GPS for that period of time, and you're losing visibility to that vehicle. So that can cause a lot of challenges. You're not going to have accurate ETAs, for example. So if the driver picks somebody up, for example, and then goes to Google Maps and the app is no longer running in the foreground, if that passenger calls, or the next passenger in the route calls and says, "Hey, what's my ETA?" the app still thinks that person's at the pickup location. Doesn't see that they're driving to that passenger drop-off location. So you're not going to have accurate ETAs. So we really, really encourage always use, always allow. We don't look at the location anytime if the driver is not signed into a shift. That's the only time we track location. So even if you're in the app and you're not signed into a shift, we're not tracking you. It's only if you're signed and active in a shift that we're taking location. So you always want to use that when you can. All right, so we talked about some of the integration enhancements we've made, but some folks are still using trip imports for a lot of their payers. So we've made a lot of enhancements to trip imports and added a whole bunch of new payers here in 2024. The most significant change was adding a new RouteGenie generic template. We had a generic template before, but it was a little bit tougher to use because of formatting, etc. The new template's very, very flexible, different date formats, different time formats. Makes it really, really easy for you to take a spreadsheet of trips, play with it a little bit, mold it to get into that RouteGenie generic template, and then upload those trips in bulk. So you're not having to enter them, each and every one by one. So that RouteGenie generic template is great for those of you that have a payer, or even if you do a one-time import of trips, perhaps, that is not one of our existing templates, you can go ahead and mold it to that generic template and get those trips into RouteGenie quickly and easily. We added a whole bunch in Kentucky for those of you out in Kentucky. LKLP, who is actually using the RouteGenie broker solution that we talked about a little bit. So for those of you that are working there, you can do a direct connection with LKLP to be able to send data over live using our integration with ourselves essentially for our broker solution. So really efficient there. We also have the trip import available if you prefer to use that. We also have Federated, Bluegrass, Specialty Mobility Services, and Grits all in Kentucky. So for those of you in Kentucky, you are all set. We've got everybody you're working with pretty much ready to go for trip import into RouteGenie. We also added this year a few others across the country. Fresno Pace out in California. We added Metro Access as well as Ride to Care out in Oregon. So all in all, almost 10 different new imports added to RouteGenie to make life easy and get those trips in quickly and efficiently. All right, let's jump over to one more really important topic. A very quick one with some big upgrades is reporting. We've made a lot of changes to reporting this year. We've added a whole bunch of different reports and filters. I'm not going to go through a huge list of those. Obviously, there's a bunch of them, but I want to talk about one of the major enhancements we made to reporting, which is canned reports. And the first canned report is a KPI summary report, which is really cool. If you have not looked at your KPI summary report, do me a favor, go in, look at it for maybe the month of December. And pull that KPI summary report. There's going to be a lot of valuable data for you in there. And that's the first canned report that we've launched. So the canned report section appears when you open reporting, where you used to see your personal templates or shared templates. Now you go to create report and you have order reports and you have driver reports, and you'll see canned reports there as well. And the canned reports are essentially reports where you don't have to add any fields. You don't have to do anything. You're just picking a date range. It's going to be popular things that we've seen from our customers that are commonly used. And essentially, you'll just click the report, choose a date range, and it's going to spit out that version of the report for you. So there's a lot more coming here. We're going to add a lot more to the canned report section. We'll probably move some things to the canned report section as well that aren't already there. Things like on-time performance that could be a canned report. We'll move some of those things into canned reports as well. So you'll see more and more of those throughout 2025. But a cool concept for those of you that don't want to maybe go in and build everything custom. You just want, hey, just give me the information I need. You're going to see a lot of those reports come out, and the KPI summary report is going to contain a lot of that data. So make sure you go check that out. Really valuable reporting data there. And of course, with reporting, if there are any suggestions you have for canned reports, things that would help you that you think will help other providers, please let us know. You can do that through the suggested features section in the help desk, or by calling our support team. Just give us a call at 1-877-599-6560. And you can make your suggestions through them. They'll pass them along to our team. A lot of these things that we're talking about that we're building are things that are suggested by our customers or requested by our customers. That's how we make most of our development decisions, is who's requesting what and how often is it being requested. So if there's things that you want in the software, number one way to make it happen is to let us know that you want it, because if you don't know, then we can't adjust to your needs accordingly. So the more people that request things, the more likely they are to come out. So if there's something you want in RouteGenie, please be sure to let us know so we can take that into consideration. And again, make sure you check those 2025 preview videos out. Really cool stuff coming in those. Like and follow. Don't miss any of the other videos. Comment below with what else we should be doing in 2025, and we will talk to you soon. Go. Frozen. Okay. The important, really important